Ladies and gentlemen, here is Ronnie Corbett.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. How very sweet. You don't think the trousers are too much, do you? Rupert Bear's cast-offs. I actually wanted a tartan jacket as well, but Anne said it was a waste of a perfectly good handkerchief. You've got to be very careful. You know, my size, if I'm all tartan, I tend to look like a thermos flask, but... People wondering how this all happens, how I happen to be here tonight, how it came to pass. Well, I'll tell you what happens. The producer, Paul Lewis, very, very, very important man. He's not here at the moment. He's gone down the road to get me a sandwich. But you may have seen him, actually, on the way in, you know, with his clipboard and his earphones. But Paul wrote me this letter. No, actually, he phoned me up. Well, he didn't really phone me. He doesn't phone... No, he doesn't phone people, you know. He sent round Jonathan Aiken with a set of proposals. And he sent me... I can make jokes, by the way, about Paul, quite safe, because we've known each other for a number of years, you know. We went to the same school together. He was actually captain of the school embroidery team. And... what I mustn't forget, he once managed the 5 Nolan sisters. There you are. Now, sadly, can only manage 2 or 3, but it is something Anyway, he wrote me this. I know what I was going to tell you, because he wrote me this letter. And I remember the day very clearly when the letter arrived. It was the one day of the year when Allied Carpets were not having a sale. And, he said... He wrote me this, and he wrote it, addressed it to me on my proper style and title. You're not Ronnie Corbett, the show. Ronald Gervais Courtney de Corbett, 14th Earl of Musselburgh and Queen's Champion. I'd like to point out there are any Queens in the audience. I don't take that part of it too seriously. The title's not been mentioned in the handout, the court circular, but it was mentioned in the handout at Tesco's the other day when I most graciously opened the new bacon counter, which I received a few quid and half a pig's head, which my wife, the Lady Marchioness, refused to cook. So it was still smiling. Well, sort of half smiling. Anyway, so that is how it all came to pass, and that's how I'm here. And we've received some rather lovely messages, which I'm sure you might like to hear. Very warming, welcoming. Their best wishes for your show tonight. If you're not the finest comedian in the country, I'm a Dutchman. Signed Hans van Gelder of Amsterdam. Anyway, we did invite Eric Cantona, and he replied, as the salmon leaps from the river, so the fisherman's boots fill with water. Now, we're not really sure if that is a yes or a no. Ian McCaskill said he'd be sweeping in from the north and arriving in the southeast by late Sunday, which is very nice. My dear mate Dan LaRue can't be here either, but he left a very kind message with a name and address at the door. And a very nice dress it is, too. I've had this other one saying, best wishes for the show. Hope it's not going to contain the usual references to your diminutive stature and lack of inches. Come off it, you're no different for the rest of us. Dudley Moore in Hollywood. No, he sent that because I've been working with Dudley on a film just recently, and all about the gay mafia. I played the very demanding role of Dolly Parton's chiropodist. So I was working in the dark to a large extent. But the real thrill for me was at the end of Picture Party, because they had a little band there, a little trio, and I managed to have a dance with Dolly, which was very lovely. And not only could I not see where I was going, I couldn't hear the band. Now, you couldn't see my face, but I think I was smiling. Samantha. Where is Samantha, darling? How lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. I was wondering how you got started.
How I got started? It's very nice of you to ask that question because it's you know, in this business, one of the great things, we move about, we meet new friends everywhere we go. You bump into people, don't you? People always come up and say, you know, get out of the way, or... People always do say to me, what made you decide to become a comedian? You know, which is what I am. I always mention that just in case, you know. I originally started in a church youth club, really. That's how we were, an amateur church youth club. But at the time, I was doing some ballet training. My mother wanted me to be a ballet dancer. That was the... But that all went... I went to the Marjorie Middle School in Edinburgh, but that all went wrong. Because it got to a stage, as there still is, I think, in ballet training, you get to your elementary, get to your advanced, they gave you your first pair of tights. And that's when it all went wrong, because I was a little bit nervous, a bit self-conscious, so I decided to take my tights home and try them on, you know, in the privacy of my house, you know. Put my leg on the mantelpiece and the dog went for me. He did love the little chunky bits. Now, a week later, I got my confidence back, and I put the tights on again. I walked into the rehearsal room. Somebody said, "There's a funny place to hide your holiday money," and I never went back. I never went back to dancing. I got a job instead playing the piano in a pub. You know, I went to because I played the piano. We used to get this funny old pub. The publican gave me 30 bob to sit at the piano for a couple of hours. Customers gave me 2 quid to sit somewhere else. I say that, playing the piano, as one does, you see. And suddenly, in the middle of my piano, this fellow jumped up and he shouted, "That piano playing," he said, "is diabolical," he said. "I've got a cat at home that plays better than that." Well, it all went quiet. Not as quiet as this, but... And my old mother, who's sitting quietly in the corner, taking the back off a fruit machine, she jumped to her foot. I forgot to tell you, she had a wooden leg. She said, "Sir, are you mad? Or have you been drinking the bitter?" And then this fellow flew out the pub, and he came back with the cat, sat the cat down on the piano stool, and it started to play the piano, the cat. Now, it wasn't wonderful, you know. Little bit weak with the left paw, you know. And couldn't quite reach the pedals, you know. But who can? After he'd finished playing, the cat finished playing, the fellow went up to the public and said, "I'll tell you something else." He said, "The cat not only played that music, but it composed it." The public said, "That's fantastic," he said. "You ought to have it orchestrated." The cat was up off that stool and out of that. So thank you very much. I once went for a job on a building site, and the foreman said to me, "Can you make a cup of tea?" He said. I said, "Yes." He said, "Can you drive a forklift truck?" I said, "Christ, how big's the teapot?" I mean, when I was working at this pub, I worked in the pub, but I did a lot of odd jobs in between, you know. I was a lumberjack on a mushroom farm for a while. And, I played a few holes the other day at a strange golf course. I had my big golfing cap on. The greenkeeper rushed out and said, "These bloody mushrooms are early this year." Well, my dear sir, Bruce, how lovely to see you.
I'm so glad you mentioned golf.
Oh,
because you're always such a pleasure to play with. You really are. But tell me, have you ever been, you know, because the game does exasperate us all, but have you ever got in such deep, desperation that you've got your clubs and you've thrown them in the lake at Wisley? I know you did it once because I found them when I was looking for mine. But the game does get you niggly.
It does get you a bit mad. It does get you wild. It's one of those games. Well, I tried not... the other... Anne, it got... oh, dear. It got Anne mad the other night.
Really?
Oh, dear. 11:45 the other night, Anne went... She shouted, 11:45, she shouted, "Golf, golf, golf," she said. "All you ever think about is bloody golf," she said, like that. Frightened the life out of me. You don't expect to meet anybody on the 14th green at that time of night. I mean, normally when I play on a Sunday, you know, I take up, like you do, Bruce, I'm sure, take up a nice tray before you go off with coffee and tea for Winnie and get to the bedroom. And I know, the other day I went up with a tray to Anne with tea and toast and bacon and egg and sausages. And I said to Anne, said to me, "That looks really lovely." I said, "It is. Why don't you go downstairs and get yourself some?" for a little joke. And I was going to say that a little story I was reminded of the other day by Nick Faldo, a little informal bonfire I threw after my golf lesson. And wasn't much of a bonfire, you know. Don't you ever try to burn clubs? The woods go very well, but the irons tend to hang around for a while. But this story was about a fellow who went on a luxury cruise for his holidays and he fell overboard. It isn't the one about the Irishman who fell overboard. Found a lifeboat and broke it up to make a raft, isn't it? Yeah. I wish it was that one, because that one is a damn sight funnier than the one in the But he's in this. No, by the way, the other day somebody said, "I thought you were going to tell the one about the girl who stowed away on the vessel and was discovered 4 days later, marched into the captain's cabin." And the captain said, "I understand you've been stowing away on this vessel for 5 or 6 days. Well, how come?" She said, "Well, I'll tell you what happened. I got on the boat the first day. Second day, I bumped into your second officer, and he's been allowing me to use his cabin facilities, his showers, and bringing me meals 3 times a day, and being generally very sweet." And the captain said, "Anything else?" She said, "I have to be honest. He has been taking advantage of me." And the captain said, "Taking advantage of you?" He said, "I'll say as this is the Isle of Wight ferry. But it isn't that one, but this story features this chap on this luxury cruiser, and he's on A deck practicing leapfrog for the sports competition. And he makes a giant leap over a widow from Huddersfield. He goes straight over the edge into the water. The moment he hits the water, he thinks, "I'm drowning. I'm drowning." Well, you would do, wouldn't you? And his whole life flashes in front of him. And it's not till he gets his affair with Kim Basinger you realise he's watching the wrong life. So there he is, swimming about on his own. And, well, you would be, wouldn't you? You would bump into a lot of people. How kind of you to drop in, you know. Drink up, there's plenty here. So there he is. And he's swimming about, and he's thinking of his friends back home, his house in the Cotswolds, his friends at the polo club, his sons William and Harry, he's thinking of the wrong damn life again. And in the distance, he sees this desert island, palm trees waving, it's miles away, and he decides to swim for it. It's miles. Swims, and he swims, and he eventually reaches it. He falls fast asleep on the beach. And when he wakens up, there is this huge man, king of the Cannibal Islands, you know, looking down at him. You know. And for a nightmare moment, he sees himself in the missionary position, out here in boiling water. And he looks up to him and says, "I'm terribly sorry." He said, "I didn't realise this was private property." And the native chief said to him, "Don't worry, old boy, there's absolutely no problem at all." He said, "Can we entertain you in some way? Would you like a little fresh gin with some fresh limes, or a little curried octopus in coconut milk, or perhaps one of our lovely maidens can assist?" He said, "Wait a minute." He said, "I'm terribly..." He said, I oh, very lovely, all very welcome, all these invitations, but what really puzzles me is, where did you learn to speak such beautiful English?" And the native chief said to him, "Well, sir, I'm going to be absolutely frank, I picked it up off the shortwave radio," he said. There's a little song that kind of fits in here, and just finish it. Now, since my girlfriend Sal met Miss Elsie de Wolf, leading decorator of the nation, it's filled that girl's mind simply full of ideas on interior decoration. For instance, she assumes that the colors of our rooms are the most important factors in our lives. And if a lot of bedrooms were pink instead of red rooms, there might be many more contented wives. And so she's put all colour from her sight, and everything she owns is black and white. She's got a black and white coat, a black and white hat, a black and white doggy, and a black and white cat. She's gone so far that she started to look through the daily advertisements for a black and white cook. She's got a black and white shack and a new Cadillac with a black and white design. Oh, she thinks black and white, she even drinks black and white, a black and white baby of mine. She got in a fight with a black and white guy. She gave him black and white teeth and a black and white eye. So they rushed her off just as quick as a wink in the black and white Mariah to a black and white clink. She said, "Why, sorry, my loves," and with her black and white gloves made a most disgusting sign. Oh, our family weep, 'cause she's the black and white sheep, a black and white baby of mine. She got a black and white hat with a black and white design. Oh, she thinks black and white, she even drinks black and white, that black and white baby of mine. Oh yeah, that black and white baby of mine. And that's that. Hey. Very nice. Very nice to see you, Laurie, sitting there, not behind the screen. Lovely. We were, I can tell, can't I? Tell the story. We were going to have a fiddle player, because we're going to do a sort of kind of Parisian bit later on. But Laurie auditioned two fellas, and I mean, the first chap arrived very, very smart, you know, with digital cufflinks and Bristol cream on his hair, and imitation crocodile case, and he opened it up, brought out this beautiful violin. He started to play it. Absolutely diabolical it was. The second fellow arrived, well, Laurie, I mean, dear me, an old dirty old raincoat tied at the waist with string, holes in his shoes, 5-day growth of beard, greasy old felt hat, under his arm this dirty old newspaper parcel tied in rotten old string. And he undid it, he brought out this battered old violin, didn't he? And he started to play it. He was a bloody sight worse than the other fellow. I've never seen your face, because I know a little bit about it, because I played the violin. Could I have my violin, please? Because I've played a bit of it. Didn't think the first part went that badly, did it? Good job I didn't ask for another piano. Now you see why good violins are so scarce. I'll show you this because you'll be interested. Well, you may not be, but if I say you're interested, you might be. This is quite interesting because whether we'll whip it or play it. This violin. Now, this violin was given to me by my grandfather, Gladys Corbett, and had a nasty accent in the sawmill. And I shall never forget the day he gave it to me. I remember, and I thought how little he knew about music, because he said, he looked up to me, he said, Ron, he's one of the few people who had ever been up a vacuum cleaner. He was a sleeping car attendant on Hornby train set. He said, Ron, he said, look what I've got for you, he said, a piano. So for years, I didn't realise I couldn't play the violin. I thought I couldn't play the piano. I took a correspondence course in this. I paid for 100 lessons, but only ever received the first 2. And I'm not accusing anybody. It's a bit of a coincidence that our postman is now working under the name of Nigel Kennedy. You listen, the next time you hear Nigel Kennedy play, he's very, very good at all the advanced stuff, but when it comes to... hopeless. He's hopeless. Because that was the first 2 lessons, you see. Never cheat to me. And then I had to give up the violin, I'll be truthful, because I was getting terrible ringing in my ears. You know, terrible. And let's face it, this, you know, is bad enough. And if you've got ringing in the ears at the same time, well, it's bloody awful. Ring, 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 it used to go. So I went to see our local doctor, and he wasn't much good, actually. He said, have you got a sore throat and a nosebleed? I said, no. He said, that's a pity, because I've got something for that. I said, this ringing went on right through until yesterday, curious enough, and I went into this shop to buy a shirt for the show tonight. The shirt, and the one I wore in the first place. And we're coming to the exciting bit here. Not before time, you say. Anyway, no, we're coming to the exciting bit. I went over to the shirt counter and I said, excuse me, oh, sorry, no, I didn't. I didn't have the violin, sorry. Well, it's funny going into a shirt shop and going like that with a violin. I said, excuse me, that's it. Something makes sense. Excuse me, I said, if you try going to the shop tomorrow, say, excuse me. Excuse me, I said. I'd like to buy a couple of shirts, if you don't mind. He said, yes, sir. He said, is it a 15 neck? I said, no, 14. He said, no, sir, I think you'll find it's a 15 neck. I said, I'm sorry, 14, it has always been a 14. He said, do you get ringing in your ears? He said, yes, you want a 15 neck, so there you are. So I'll put this back in there. I like to walk up and down a bit like that, you know, just stretch my legs. And left it a bit late, I know, but anyway.
Dear Ronald,
yes.
you and I were in a film together in 1959.
Yes.
Rockets Galore, do you remember this?
That's right.
Yes, we made it on the Isle of Barra.
Yes.
And more recently, you've been in a film called Fierce Creatures.
Yes, I have, that's right.
What have you been doing between?
Not enough, really. I did No Sex, Please, We're British, and of course we toured the play, didn't we? And
yeah.
We had that lovely time. But the film that people don't really remember a lot about, I got into this, it was most odd. I was in the Stork Club years ago in Swallow Street when Al Burnett, who ran it, used to have auditions on Sunday night, and I'd done a bit of a show there, and I met Terry Thomas, who was a huge, big star. Afterwards, he said, come and have a drink. And he said how he'd enjoyed it, you know, how funny it was and all that sort of thing. And a couple of weeks later, it's true, I was driving down Tottenham Court Road. In the days you could drive down it, so that's how long ago it was. It wasn't one way then. I was overtaken by a cab. Madly waving figure in this cab was Terry Thomas, saying pull over, you know, slow down, pull over. So I did. And Terry got out of his taxi and he said, it's amazing, just seeing you like this is just the most amazing coincidence. He said, I'm about to make a film. He said, to be directed by a friend of mine, Bob Day. And I thought, I've just seen you, and it's just sparked off an idea, you know. You're so right for the part. I mean, right up your street. So get in touch. Here's his number, and give him a tinkle tomorrow. Old Sport, I think he said, is at the end of that. And off he went in his taxi. See, well, the next day I was round at Bob Day's office. I'm ushered into this plush producer's office, and there is Bob Day. And he is charm itself, and he says he's heard all about it from Terry, and now he's met me, he's sure Terry's absolutely right, and there's this part, and this, anyway. And this film is a romantic comedy. It's set in Gibraltar, the rock itself with all its traditions, and filming in March. And you'll like it. You see, you'll love the costume. It's, you know, it might be a little bit tight and a bit hot, but, you know. So how would you like to play the part of one of the Barbary apes? And he said, the head will come off and you can speak now and again, you know. And the joke is, of course, I did it. And only I can tell which one is me. I'm the one who's just a little bit more fastidious about where he puts his nuts. And that's how I know it. But that is the luck of the draw, the luck of the business, isn't it? You'd have to take the rough with the smooth, these funny roles. Everything seems to happen to me. I make a date for golf, and you can bet it's going to rain. I try to give a party, and the neighbors all complain. I travel Eurotunnel, and they set alight the train. Everything happens to me. Each time I have roast turkey, I'm the one who gets the neck. I do a gig, they pay me with a bonny bouncing check. And then there's my investments, Barings Bank and Polly Peck. Everything happens to me. I once appeared in Star Trek back in '64. I hoped that in the role I'd make it big. I stepped on William Shatner's line and how he swore. I wish I hadn't said, don't flip your wig. I go out for a stroll and birdies decorate my hat. I go away on holiday and burglars strip my flat. I guess it's all my fault for walking under that black cat. Everything happens to me. My love life has been utterly regrettable, but nonetheless I've always persevered. My one blind date was truly unforgettable, for on that night Anne Widdecombe appeared. My dreams are always ending with a whimper, not a bang. On last election day, I bet a grand on Ian Lang. In 1965, I did a musical called Twang. Everything happens to me. Oh dear, funnily enough, thank you. Thank you very much. I did do the musical Twang with this wonderful pedigree with Paddy doing the choreography and Joan directing it and Oliver Messel designing it. But curious enough, of course, had it run longer than it did, I would never have met and worked with my dear, dear mate, and we would never have got together, Ronnie Barker. So it was really rather cool. So, Ron, it's lovely to see you.
Nice to see you, my dear sir.
Thank you very much.
It's going very well. It's going very well. I was going to ask you,
yes,
who was the nicest person you ever worked with?
I think probably Basil Brush, I would
No, that wasn't really the question.
No.
Anything for a cheap laugh.
Really
The question, you mentioned Twang.
Yes.
Now, am I right in saying that you worked in another musical in the West End before we even met?
Yes, that's right. That's absolutely right. Yes, I got a job in another one that was going to take place at Drury. I borrowed some money. I borrowed £4,000 to buy a house, which you could do in those days. And I went to see the bank manager in Camden Town, still with Camden Town. And I said, I'm going to do this musical at Drury Lane, and everything works at Drury Lane. All lasts with My Fair Lady, been on God knows how many years, and Plain and Fancy before that. And can you lend me this money because I'm in the show at Drury Lane? And he did, and the show I did lasted 9 weeks. So, but it was nevertheless fun, and it wasn't all that disaster. But it was Bob Monkhouse and Dennis Quilley played the Antipholus, and I played one of the Dromios, and it was a job finding somebody of similar stature, if I might, bold enough to use that word, as me. And they did eventually find Sonny Farrer, darling Sonny Farrer, who was about the same bill, but not quite my contemporary, but he was really lovely, and he was a variety act. And I always remember that in the second week of the run, we did a gala performance at the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, one of these wonderful, expensive matinees with a very posh, shiny programme with the tassels top and bottom. And you opened up the page, and there on the first page was item 6, the Pas de Deux from Raymonde, danced by Margot Fontaine and Rudolf Nureyev. And item 8, you know, an extract from The Marriage of Figaro, sung by Mirella Freni and Tito Gobbi. And in between these two grand items, item 7 was Sonny Farrer, 5 foot of fun with a banjo. I always remember dear Sonny with his banjo, and indeed the show, because the show, Richard Rogers, although he was struggling and everything like that for all that time, Richard Rogers was backstage with us every night, and that itself was a great honour. There were some great numbers in Boys from Syracuse. It was loaded. Falling in love with love is falling for make-believe. And what about This Can't Be Love, because I feel so well, no sobs. But my favourite, I think. Hawks and crows do lots of things,
but the canary only sings. She's a courtesan on wings,
so I've heard. Eagles and storks heart twice as strong.
All the canary knows his song, but the canary gets along.
Gilderbird, sing for your supper and you'll get breakfast. Songbirds always eat if their song is sweet to hear.
Sing for your luncheon and you'll get dinner. Dine with wine of choice if romance is in your voice. I heard from a wise canary, trilling makes a fellow willing. So little swallow, swallow now.
Now is the time to sing for your supper and you'll get breakfast. Songbirds are not dumb. They don't buy a crumb or bread, they said. So sing and you'll be fed. Sing for your supper and you'll get breakfast. Songbirds always eat if their song is sweet to hear. Sing for your lunch and you'll get dinner. Dine with wine of choice if romance is in your voice. I heard from a wise canary, trilling makes you weep. So little swallow, swallow now. Now is the time to sing for your supper and you'll get breakfast. Songbirds are not dumb. They don't buy a crumb or bread, is said. So sing and you'll be fed. Sing for your supper and you'll get breakfast. Songbirds always eat if the song is sweet to hear. Sing for your luncheon and you'll get dinner. Dine with wine and choice if romance is in your voice.
I heard from a wise canary, really
Makes a fellow willing. So little swallow, swallow now. Now is the time to swing for your supper and you'll get breakfast. Songbirds are not dumb. They don't have to buy a crumb of bread, a spoon of bread, just sing instead. You don't have to buy even a crumb of bread, this said. You'll be fed if you sing. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. That's. So sing and you'll be fed. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Lovely and cool. I'd like to thank, by the way, London Weekend for the splendid expense they've gone to in this wonderful set for the everything, piano. All comes flat packed. Very, very nice. This is actually my own piano. Travelled it everywhere with me for good luck. And found it in a cornflake packet. And where is Linda? Because Linda, hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank
Yes,
you.
darling. Very nice to see you.
I've got a little question.
Yes?
It's a bit impertinent of me, Ronnie, but you've been talking about the piano, and I've seen you several times sitting at pianos. Do you actually play the piano?
Well, well, when I'm allowed to, I do actually play, you know. I mean, curious enough, you should ask this question, because here I have the certificate from the Royal Vienna State Academy of Pianoforte Arts. Yes. Phone Slough 899 after 6. No, this piano actually is a very, very old piano, you know. I can remember Christmas evenings at home, the old days in Edinburgh, the whole family would stand round the piano like this. Wishing that one of us could play it, you know. Then my father would give us a tune on the comb and paper. He's wonderful on the comb and paper, my dad. On a good night, you couldn't see across the room for dandruff. He was very, very, very fond of Tchaikovsky, my dad. And Tchaikovsky got married, and that was the end of it. Never seemed to see each other again, so that was it. But I always hope to play, you know, if I do well, that somebody will give me permission to actually play
Ronnie.
on the stage.
Ronnie.
Magnus, sir.
Never mind the piano. I've always been wanting to ask you, because I seem to remember you used to do a turn with a chair.
Yes, I seem to remember that.
A bit like me.
Yes.
I was I was given my chair at the end of my series. What happened to your chair?
Pass. No, I don't know what happened to it. Some miniature replicas of mine are available in Ronnie Barker's shop in Chipping Norton. By the way, this phone here, you might be wondering about this. This phone here is very unusual. It's so that Paul Lewis, you know, the producer I was telling you about, can get in touch with me at any time rather than stop the show. It's all going. Oh, there we are. You see. Yes. Hello? Yes, well, I am getting on with it. What? It's all going very well. What? What do you mean? Oh, yes. I can't speak for long. I've got some people here. Now, yes. Yes, oh, yes, okay, thank you. Okay. He's very sweet, he actually is very sweet, because yesterday we were in here rehearsing and he said, pop upstairs to the bar, you know, the club up there, and I have a drink, and I went up there, and there he was, standing, chatting to the hat stand, and he doesn't see very well, and neither do I bought them both a drink, but it was, he has very sweetly left me the cigar and the thing, just to make me feel, you know, that I'm welcome here, which is very nice, and one of the nice things that happens with... Hello? Yeah? Oh, yeah, sorry. One of the nice things that... One of the... Hello? Mm-hmm. Absolutely right, yes. Should have thought. I'm sorry, Paul. I'm very sorry. Did Nigel see it? Yes, right, okay. Say, a present for Freddie Starr. However, I am going to have a glass of wine. That is certainly something I will... Now, I wouldn't normally do this. I wouldn't normally drink like this, but not when I'm working, but I've got a terrible cold and I can't get rid of it. I've had it since I was 11. And I went to see the doctor with my nose, and I didn't actually see him with my nose, obviously. I saw it with my eyes. But I happened to have my nose with me at the time. And he said, I'm going to give you a vapor rub. I said, will it clear my chest? He said, it might bloody well clear London weekend television. So, and he gave me some tablets. He saw me the other, he said to me, have you taken the tablets? I said, you mean the tablet? The big white one? Oh, he said, oh my God, you've swallowed the box. He said, will it do me any harm? I said, he said, not unless the lid comes off. But he's very, very sweet doctor. He's more than a doctor, he's holistic. He looks after, wonderful words about children. He said, if you can get your children, for example, to run 3 miles every morning and 3 miles every evening, by the end of the week, they could be 42 miles away. If you know anybody who's getting married, you say, be sure and have a home movie made of the ceremony. Very often, years to come, you might feel a bit low, a bit depressed. You run that film, it's like a fairy tale. Particularly if you run it backwards, because that way you end up single. But I have to say, on my way out of the consulting room, later on in the afternoon, I bumped into a friend from the golf club who came up. He said, looking very depressed. I said, you look very upset. He said, well, I'm not surprised. He said, I've just been diagnosed a kleptomaniac, he said, hanging his head in shame and plunging his hands deep into my pockets. I said, what did the doctor say? Well, he said he's going to give me some tablets, he said, and if they don't work, could I get him a CD player? Now, Frank, where is Frank Skinner? Frank, dear sir, how
Ronnie,
lovely. Thank you very much for coming, by the way.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've been watching you on telly since I was about your size. And I'd say you're a very big influence on my career. Who were the influences on your comedy career?
Well, that's very, very kind of you. I say so. Thank you very much for that. Well, in Scotland, I used to watch a wonderful comedian called Dave Willis, who was a little kind of funny eccentric. Then when I came down to London, the London Palladium was its heyday of vaudeville, so all the Hopes and the Bennies and Martin Lewis and Johnny Carson, they were all coming over then. So they were the great talkers. Chevalier doing his one-man show. The people who seemed to talk, and you spent time with them, and when you left, you felt you had met them. So I always loved seeing them. You know, you start answering questions like this, of course, you made me feel seriously old. I know you didn't mean to, but you do get these feelings. So you do get to a certain age, and you're tender and things like that about age. You know, you bend down to tie your shoelaces and think, what else can I do when I'm down there? That type of thing. I got my senior citizens rail card 2 weeks ago. And the rather embarrassing thing about it is that the week before I was travelling half fare. One of my daughters, she came home the other night with someone from another planet. You know. I mean, he'd obviously tried to take on human form, you know. Failed. He was half man, half sofa. She said his name was Peter and he was training to be a doctor. Well, he didn't look bright enough to be a patient for me. Anyway. But Anne and I were very calm about it. Very, very, very. Said, tell him, darling, we are earthlings, we said. We mean him no harm, we said. Now take him back to where you found him and try not to get any on your shoes. I'll put this down. I had a friend. I've had enough of that. I had a friend who got involved in a national health... He was in a National Health Service hospital, this fellow. And he got involved in the National Health Service Improvement Scheme. He was in... This particular day, he went out of the ward to post a letter, you know, in his pyjamas and his dressing gown. Went down the road to post a letter. When he came back, the hospital was closed. They were going to close it earlier, but they were waiting for the Queen to come and open it. So he's in this, and he's in his outfit with the pyjamas and the dressing gown and the slippers, and he's got his, you know, portable Lugazade, you know, in the plastic bag, you know, on the wheels, and he's rushing down. He said, I must get to the pub. I don't wish to miss the darts match, he said. The hemorrhoids are playing the paranoids, he said. By the way, if you're surprised by my use of medical terms, my knowledge of them, I come from a long line of doctors, very short doctors. Mostly specialists in the kneecap area. Except for my old Uncle Arthur, old Lofty, who was a gynecologist. Anyway, he's rushing down the pub like this with these things like this. Strange story, I know, but strange things do happen. Who would have thought that one day they'd have a man in space and put Jeremy Beadle on television? So they got it the wrong way around. But anyway, he's rushing in. And he gets to the pub, and he's standing at the pub like this, waiting for him. And the publican comes up, standing there. He said, can I get you that? He said, yes, I'll have a triple scotch, please. So. Got the triple scotch in his hand. He said, strictly speaking, you know, with what I've got, I shouldn't be having this. Publican said, what have you got? He said, 20p. Because I knew this girl. I knew the girlfriend of the family who had a complex about her bosom, her figure, her shape, you know. And she was sent to this special... I'm not, by the way, very good at telling stories about this sort of thing. My Scottish upbringing, you know, full of repression, you know. We used to play doctors and nurses in Linda Marchbank's garden shed. I was always the one they sent for more bandages. By the time I got back, Linda Marchbanks was up and about and fully recovered, you know. They're all playing hopscotch, you know. For years, I thought that sex was something you did on one leg. Every time I tried it behind the Odeon, I fell over. We had this fantasy, too, that Honor Blackman would creep into my bedroom, put her hand down her blouse, and bring out 2 cup final tickets. I went to see the doctor about that. He was no use at all. He wanted to buy the tickets. This lady has arrived at this doctor's in Harley Street, and he said to her, he said, yes, you're absolutely right. He said, there is a wee technique, he said, that's awfully good, that we have brought over from America, and we can certainly help me. He wore his glasses like that down, he said. had a theory that it saved wear and tear on the lens. He said, it's awfully good, this wee technique. He said, what happens is, he said, we implant a little airbag type of thing in each bosom, and the valve is actually, he said, under your arm. Awfully discreet, he said, and I think you'll find it's money well spent, and you inflate your bosom. So she has it done. All very successful. She's going out for a first night with a little friend, and she's getting dressed in the decorated dress, and she's in front of the mirror. That's very, very tasty, she thinks. So she goes out with her friend in the little cocktail bar down the road, sipping the little chap pops in. Hello, ladies, you're looking very tasty. I say, very nice. Can I buy you a drink, this little lad says. She turned round and she said, do I know you? He said, no, he said, but I think we go to the same doctors. Thank you. Life, there's people everywhere. I've had my wear and tear. But what might shock the Western world, I don't even care. It's the only way to go. It's the only dream I know. I'm contented just to be uncomplicated me. So don't dig any deeper. What you get is what you see. I'm the only man you'll find who has nothing on his mind. 3 cheers, hand me a beer. Watch my dreams become real. Oh no, please don't go. I can't tell you how happy I feel. We'll be happy till we die. My lovely dreams and I relax until they take us to that stage up in the sky. And up's the only way to go. It's the only dream I know. It's the only way. It's the only way. It's the only way to go. God bless. Good night. Thank you very much. Thank you. I've only just come. Hello? Ah. Oh, that's very nice. Thank you very much. Very nice. That's Paul saying he's going to let me play the piano. Linda, he's going to let me play. Oh. I'm so pleased about that because, you know, I've had so many funny letters from people, the usual people, you know, my wife and her mother, and our local vicar. And so I'm really pleased. It's going to be a great film. And he said if it works really well, I'll be able to stay on and do a couple more stories and that. So it's very, very, very lovely. The only thing that is worrying me is I don't want to crease this suit because, no, I'm booked to stand on a wedding cake tomorrow, so I don't So I will play... Laurie, and if it all goes well, stay on, and we're going to do a little bit more. I will play Send in the Clowns, if you like. Right. Hello? Yes. All right, thank you. Good night.